Well, good morning, everyone. This is Keith with Positively Osceola here for another Daybreak Live, and we are super blessed to have an amazing amount of just wonderful guests that join us every day, and we never take that for granted at all. And today is like a super awesome, cool day because we've got like these rock and rollers, awesome folks that that really are a part of what is integral in the development in Osceola County and certainly the greater Orlando area, Orange County, Seminole, and we don't take that for granted. So we thank all of you guys for being here. This is kind of our casual startup, as I said. I'll give you the casual intro. We've got Alex, Emily, Kevin, and Maryemma today. How you guys all doing?
Good morning. We're great.
Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning, everyone.
Good to see everybody here. And so we did kind of chat before we started informally off the air, and so it is summer officially, as you see. You know, the glimpses of storms just kind of still floating around out there, saying hello. But so far, so good. Even the one that touched South Carolina, easy for me to say, wasn't too dramatic, but I think it booked pretty quick. So we'll keep our fingers crossed and our prayers running so we can experience a non-storm filled summer. So I asked earlier, no one has taken a vacation yet. So what's up with that? Just too busy.
Too busy.
I think we have forgotten how.
Yeah, you know, some of us make it to the beach once in a while, Maryemma.
Oh, well, I don't know who that is.
That's awesome. Well, so we've got a lot to talk about. Why don't we go ahead and kind of hit it? I'll make it official with this right here. So again, this is Keith with Positively Osceola, and super excited about the guests we have today. We are, we see a lot. We're very plugged in with Osceola County specifically, and certainly Orange County and Orange County and Seminole. We see what is going on there as well, and as a whole, those counties and all of us in Central Florida are experiencing huge growth. Something the pandemic seemed to boost even further with Florida. I guess was a very attractive place to look at during the last year and a half, and we get that. So what comes with that is the need for planning, and I think so many of us don't ever consider that. You know, we live our daily lives, and I think we just kind of say, you know, somebody's out there and somebody's working on all this and somebody's communicating, and that somebody and those someones are you folks, and so we appreciate you first off very much. So let me run through just a quick introduction, and we'll get you guys talking and get me being quiet. So Emily Hanna from Bike Walk Central Florida, Executive Director of Bike Walk Central Florida, bicycling and pedestrian advocacy group that promotes safe and active modes of transportation for a healthy community, and that is a big deal. We'll have you talk more obviously than I on this. And Alex Trauger from MetroPlan Orlando. He is the Manager of Transportation Planning at MetroPlan Orlando. MetroPlan Orlando leads transportation planning efforts in Osceola, Orange, and Seminole County, coordinating with industry experts and elected officials, and obviously many more ands, much more. And certainly below us we have Kevin Feldlinger with St. Cloud. And for the summer, he is working with Public Works again. So we'll let Maryemma talk more about what that means and what that does for our community. But we thank you for being here as well, Kevin. And we work a lot with Maryemma. There's no question. And I think when that happens, the mistake that gets made all too often is we don't thank you enough. You make a huge impact on what we're able to do in the area because you're so good at what you do. And my wife and I are extraordinarily thankful for being able to work with you all the time. And plus you're pretty cool. And so.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. You guys are fun to work with.
Yeah, we're trying. You know, the name positive is a lot of pressure.
Right. It's in your name. You have to live up to it.
It's all the t-shirts. So Emily, we'll lead off with you. Why don't you tell us a little more what you do, the impact your organization is having on Central Florida, and we'll come back around after we talk to Alex as well and talk about what was that survey in 10th Street. But please let us know more about what you're doing.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Keith, for having me this morning, talk a little bit about what Bike Walk Central Florida does in our region. And so what we actually do is advocate, as you said, for bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure and safety through education and through events, teaching people how to walk and bike safely and comfortably in their community. And we do this throughout the 3-county region. So we serve Seminole County, Osceola County, and Orange County, along with the cities within those counties. And what we try to do is bridge the gap between what are the different cities doing, what are the different counties doing, what works, what doesn't in different communities, because every community is different. And what might work in Seminole County might not work in St. Cloud. And so it's expanding those opportunities and sharing thoughts and ideas of how we can improve the education, the messaging, and then also improve the built environment as well, improving the crosswalks, the crossings themselves, whether it's striping or signage, or making recommendations for visibility for the vehicles so that they can see the pedestrians or the cyclists as they cross the road. So just making those safe, conscious efforts. But what we're really excited about is to be a stakeholder within the 10th Street study that MetroPlan Orlando is doing. So this is a complete street study that they're working on, and I'll let Alex talk a little bit more about the project. But what it's supposed to do is look at how we can move all modes of transportation down the road, except just vehicles. And they're looking at how to improve the pedestrian and the bicycle connections within St. Cloud along that street, and then how that can connect the rest of the community. So we're really excited to be a part of that study and look forward to supporting MetroPlan and providing our feedback and our thoughts on how they can improve that segment of that road. So I'll turn it over to Alex to talk about the study because I think it's a great opportunity, especially as you said, with all the growth and development that's occurring specifically in Osceola County.
Great. Thanks, Emily. So as Keith mentioned, MetroPlan Orlando is a regional transportation planning agency charged under federal and state law with setting regional transportation priorities and determining how those federal and state transportation dollars are spent in the region, Orange, Osceola, and Seminole counties. As Keith mentioned, we do work closely with our elected officials, our industry experts and local government partners. We also have a really broad and far-reaching public participation process, and this engaging today is part of that. Historically, or even by law, MetroPlan Orlando develops long-range transportation plans looking 20 plus years into the future, again about setting those long-range future priorities. But as part of that, looking long range, focusing on the region, we also have to look to our local partners, our local needs, and help kind of guide that project development process. And that's really where it takes us to the 10th Street project. So again, we have long range plans that focus on Orange, Osceola, and Seminole counties, which is really larger than the state of Delaware, to kind of give some perspective, to our planning area. But we also come in as an organization and help our local government partners solve their transportation challenges. And that's really what we're doing with the 10th Street Complete Streets project. So that project kind of in a nutshell, the limits of the project are from US 192 all the way over to Narcoossee Road, towards the east. As many of the listeners may know, this is a really important east-west connector for the city. But our goal, my charge as a project manager for MetroPlan Orlando, is to really develop a set of implementable improvements for the 10th Street corridor. And following up to, as Emily mentioned, it's solutions that we're looking at are really multimodal in nature. So we're looking at how can we improve bicycle access and connectivity? How can we improve safety? How can we improve travel time reliability along the corridor? And how can we solve some of the speeding challenges that we're seeing to kind of improve safety so we can have more cyclists and more pedestrians out there in a safer and more comfortable environment. So we just kicked off the study in January of this year. And just 2 weeks ago, we met with our project visioning team to really talk about existing conditions and where we want to go with the project, setting goals and objectives. But we'll be wrapping up the project really in the next 12 to 14 months. But the next steps of the project are really important. That's where we're going to be developing alternatives and evaluating each of those alternative concepts for the 10th Street area. So we'll be developing different cross sections, different looks and styles of the road for the community, for our local partners to engage with. So we'll be doing different virtual meetings and other surveys and kind of some pop-up spontaneous meetings along the corridor to solicit feedback and get some good information there. But our end game with this project, which we'll be wrapping up in June, is to really develop a concept that we can hand over to the city and that we can construct as again to kind of improve the conditions of 10th Street for now and considering the future. Keith, you mentioned a survey, and we did, as part of our public participation process, we did conduct a survey and as well as a comment map that allowed people to kind of provide pinpoint issues along the corridor. With Maryemma's and other city folks from the city's support, we were actually able to get over 500 responses. About 80% of those who actually participated in the survey actually travel or live along the corridor. So, we're in good shape. We're really tapping into those who are going to be most affected by the outcomes of the work that we have here. We asked, how do you currently use the corridor? How would you like to use the corridor? What type of improvements would you like to see to 10th Street? And, as Emily hinted to, there's a really huge desire for increased cycling, a desire to get more on the street, walking along the street, but also for, improved street lighting and other kind of multimodal amenities. So I think people want to experience 10th Street on foot, on cycle, kind of outside of their automobile. And that's really what I took away from this study, or from the survey rather. But again, we're really early on in the 10th Street study. Plenty of ways for people to engage with us as we get into that alternatives analysis process. Just a quick plug for more information about 10th Street. It is MetroPlanOrlando.com/10th Street study. Super simple. Check us out online, and we do look forward to engaging with the community more in the future.
Well said. I personally appreciated the Delaware analogy. Being a visual guy, I like that. So a couple things hit me real quick, and I'll try to get this over to Maryemma. Number one, that is a large stretch of land for sure. The roadway from the downtown corridor all the way to Narcoozy and it's varied. It changes drastically, which I know coming from that downtown piece all the way to Narcoozy. So that is a large challenge to take on for sure. We appreciate you. I don't know how elected officials or staff in county and cities, how they do that how do they do these things without your work? Both, all of you. I don't know how they do that without the work. It's vital. It's vital to know because from where they sit, they're not capable of getting that information that you're bringing to them. So we appreciate what you're doing big time. So Maryemma and certainly Kevin, as I said, that's a long road and varied as it makes its way from downtown all the way to Narcoozy. So why don't you give us the St. Cloud's perspective on that study and how that interfaces? What also hit me was how that's also, from what I hear you guys saying, both Emily and Alex, that's going to interface with some other things that you're doing, the Florida Avenue project and all that. To take a look at that right now, from my perspective, what an amazing scenario to have. An increase of pedestrian safety there and just walkways and certainly bicycling as well. That's a beautiful thought just to kind of imagine that all coming together. So why don't you share about that if you could, Maryemma?
Absolutely. Just from the community perspective, 10th Street is absolutely utilized as an alternative to 13th Street, which is 192 running through the heart of downtown St. Cloud. So a lot of times when we get a lot of heavy congestion and kind of rush hour times on 192, particularly, that 10th Street is a handy way for people to parallel up there without hitting all of that traffic on 192 and so forth. However, as you noted, it is a very different corridor than the 13th Street corridor. It's a very narrow, particularly in some sections. There aren't shoulders generally. There's sidewalks in some areas, and sometimes it's on one side of the road, sometimes on the other with the sidewalks. So again, we were just looking for ways to really enhance the usability of that, make it safer. And as you mentioned, not only from a motorist perspective, but certainly from a bicyclist, pedestrian, and then also buses. We have bus routes that run on that line. So from a community perspective, part of my mission on this thing was to ensure that we got good community input and feedback on it. And as Alex mentioned, we had over 500 responses, 80% of whom are people who either live on that corridor or use it regularly. So we were able to really zero in on kind of our target market on that, so to speak, and get some really valuable feedback from those people, which is going to be very useful to us moving forward. And we will continue engaging with the community as we move forward. But we're just excited at this point, as we're just coming out of the gate with the study, that we've had that kind of engagement with the community and that kind of feedback. And I think ultimately that's going to get us a better end result.
Agreed. And so Kevin, why don't you kind of kick in your piece in all this, since you got the title going again this summer.
Right. Well, like I said, the biggest thing with it is, not only is it for looking at that we have multiple other studies that we're trying to incorporate in this also. We have, as you mentioned before, we have the Florida Avenue bike trail that's going to be tying into 10th Street. We have the downtown revitalization that we're doing also that is going to be part of this. And also we have a MAC study, a medical arts campus that we're incorporating all those different kind of cross sections into this section too. And as everybody's mentioned, this is a major corridor. It goes from 192 all the way to Narcoossee Road, and it goes across two different jurisdictions also. Osceola County also maintains a portion of 10th Street also. So like I said, this entire project is a collaboration not only between the city of St. Cloud and MetroPlan, but Osceola County also. So it's just being able to get everybody to the same the table and be able to discuss it. Like I said, be able to try to get the best product we can, because this really came out of people talking about it being too narrow with the buses during certain areas, and we could have went in and just put in widen the road and just said there we fixed that problem, but we didn't want to just fix a problem. We want to make sure that as we construct in this area that we actually provided the best quality roadway for the citizens and all the driving public that goes through there. And so like I said, that's why it's very important to be able to make sure that we do all this planning up front to be able to make sure that we address all the needs as opposed to just one need. And then that way, when we go through, because once this goes to construction, it's going to be inconvenient during the construction process. But we prefer to only do it once instead of having to go back and do multiple construction projects.
Yeah, that's a great point. And again, the word planning is going to be the key word of the day. And I think I'm not going to speak for the whole entire community in one sentence for sure, but from my perspective, I think sometimes I want to see, and we're pretty patient typically in the world I live in, but we all want to kind of see that improvement happen in real time, and I think we forget sometimes what you just said, Kevin. It's plan, do it efficiently, do it effectively with a lot of synergy, and you don't redo it 5 years, 10 years later, because this is a long-term scenario. So I guess this probably points to you, Alex. So again, Orange, Seminole, Osceola County, incorporated cities in all three counties. How do you prioritize what gets done first? It's a little bit, it looks to be like an insane choice moment, right? How do you start? And the same thing with you, Emily. How do you approach prioritizing what needs to be done first?
So procedurally, as I mentioned kind of earlier on, we look to our core products as an organization. And the first is our long-range transportation plan. We call it our 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. And that document, is really the long range multimodal vision document for the Central Florida area. And a lot of time, we spent a lot of time in developing that plan, focusing on goals and objectives, and doing some what we call scenario planning. So, asking ourselves, what if, and then what? So we spent a lot of time talking to our elected officials, to our community partners, to our advisors, about, who do we want to be? What do we want our transportation system to be like, no matter what? And what rises to the top out of that is we want a safe system. We want a multimodal system that connects us to, conveniently, accessibly. We want it to support the economy, but we also want it to support our personal health and our community health. Right. So we look to those goals and objectives, and then what we call performance-based planning. It's really a data-informed process of, if those are our goals and objectives, if we say those things are important, then what are quantitative indicators for us to measure specific projects? So we can measure the sum, the cumulative of all projects. We can also look at how do each of those individual projects fit into our vision, quantitatively. And that's really what we've entered into over the past 3 to 5 years with our long range process, but also our short-term prioritization process. And we're going to use that. So we're using that process on a regional level. Like I said, it levels the playing field. It provides an objective lens for us to have conversation, and for our decision makers, they have the best information available. But we're following a similar process for the 10th Street study. So, as we look at different cross sections, and you mentioned a long corridor, a very kind of a different corridor. We have 3 segments for the 10th Street study. The segment 1, which we call the medical arts area, is 192 to Columbia. The second area we call the historic grid, which is Columbia Ave to Eastern Ave. And then we have the third area, the easternmost area, which is what we call the suburban transition, which is Eastern Ave to Narcoossee. So as we develop alternative different cross sections for those areas, there's different limits, there's different constraints that we have within each of those. We'll go back to the goals and objectives that we set for this study, that we had our discussion with our project visioning team 2 weeks ago and our agency staff 2 weeks ago. And we say, if those things are important, here's the cross sections that we develop that are feasible, that we can actually build, that we're not, taking people's, land away, and we're not obstructing, any other buildings. What can we do? And we'll go through that process objectively. And again, it ties back to our community partners. But at the end of the day, it's really going to be our local partners selecting a preferred alternative. But we hope to guide that process, with an objective lens and in a future focused lens.
That's great. So Emily, I've got to sitting here. I've got to believe that you're loving these conversations, because they lend to what you really want to see in a million communities and where you're serving. So is that accurate to say?
Absolutely, Keith. We are very excited that MetroPlan and St. Cloud are taking on this study, and also all the great work that St. Cloud is doing. I think that they're an example of what small communities need to do to plan for the increase in development that we know we're going to see. There's a statistic recently that there's upwards of 2,000 people a day moving to Central Florida, and we don't really quite have the housing stock available, and so we're developing housing for these people that are moving in, and we have to plan ahead. And I think St. Cloud is doing a phenomenal job considering what land they have available and how they're going to connect and move people through the community and how they can provide those support services. And a lot of that has to do with how you move around and providing the alternative options for people to walk and bike in the community for not only economic benefits, but also for health benefits as well. And then obviously it takes a little bit of ease off the transportation system to incorporate kind of that balance. So we definitely like to show other partners what St. Cloud is doing and support their work there. And then going back to your previous question about prioritization, Bike Walk Central Florida, we serve the 3 counties, but ultimately we are here to advocate and educate. So we do that wherever we can. But we really prioritize our Best Foot Forward program partners, which is the pedestrian safety program that's supported by MetroPlan Orlando, and then the cities and counties that participate in it. And so those are our priorities. Those communities that are a part of our program are where we put our efforts into to help them plan for bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, and then go in and make those improvements when we have safety concerns as well. So that's how we prioritize. But of course, we'd love to add more partners to the program and expand it, and teach people how you can educate, you can enforce, and then you can make those improvements to the built environment to make a safe community.
Well said. I know at our staff, we're always, and this is not my saying or our saying, but we say what many organizations say: if you're not managing, if you don't manage, if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. And I know you guys live by that. I'm going to throw this back down to Maryemma real quick. So again, from the city of St. Cloud's perspective, there's so much going on. It's almost a priority question again. There's so many things that you're involved with right now, and and nothing's a vacuum. Of course, the last year, we've all been affected by the COVID-19 scenario, and then of course we're in summer, and that brings different challenges to communities just with weather. So how does St. Cloud approach this as well? And I love, Kevin, what you said as far as we're not talking just St. Cloud. This involves county as well. So how do you prioritize as the city and get things moving forward coming out of a pandemic, and look at things like this? Because this, and I'm going to keep, so many great things have been said. I'm writing them down and quoting them, but like Alex said, you're talking about personal health and community health. That's a big deal. I don't know that we heard that 15 years ago. I don't know that was the messaging that was coming out of any community. I just don't think 15, 20 years ago we ever heard people saying, we're as organizations, we're concerned with personal health, we're concerned with community health, because those two live together, right? So from St. Cloud again, and I know we're getting up there in time, but share with us a little bit of how you prioritize as a city and keep things moving forward.
Well, Keith, honestly, it's really kind of a group effort and a team lift on this. It starts at the top. We have a city council that is really great at seeing the long range and seeing the big picture, and giving great direction to city administration as far as priorities. Our administration is great, and then they have put together a team of very capable leaders. And one of the things that really has impressed me in the Osceola County market is how there's not a lot of silos here. As you see, even on this project, it's City of St. Cloud, it's MetroPlan Orlando, it's Bike Walk Central Florida. We partner extensively also with City of Kissimmee, with Osceola County. And both in my world and then in a larger picture, there's just so much of this working together, because none of us is an island, and what affects one of us affects all of us. And I've worked in a lot of other markets where that was not the case. So it's been really refreshing to see that here. And I think it benefits not only those of us that are in the weeds working on these projects, but obviously benefits the community as a whole. So I think, to me, that's really part of how and why we not only set priorities, but also are able to move forward and have effectiveness in implementing what we plan on. It's easy to do long range plans, put them on a shelf, and they collect dust. That's not what any of us is about. So, and again, having that cohesive team environment countywide, and really even regionally wide, is a huge benefit for us and for our citizens.
Well said. Kevin, anything you'd like to add to that?
No, like I said, as Maryemma said, it really is a team effort. Like I said, we right now are in the process of updating our transportation master plan, and also our mobility master plan. So like I said, those items there here at the City of St. Cloud are always a living document. Like I said, the challenges come up, as Emily's saying, with everybody growing in. There are coming to Central Florida. At some point, we're not going to be able to build our way out of it. Roadways are only be able to be so big. We're going to have to find other ways to be able to move people around, either whether, like I said, whether it be through transit or walking or bicycling or some way that hasn't been thought of yet. Like I said, I'm sure there's a lot of smart people out there than I am. They are probably thinking about different ways to be able to move people around that we haven't seen yet. I mean, even if you look at like in the Orange County where they have the share rides or they have the different where you rent a bicycle, rent a scooter, and be able to put up drop off different places. Those type of programs are the things that people are trying to think outside the box to be able to help try to meet the transportation needs for not only St. Cloud but for Central Florida. Those are really the ones that are really some of the real exciting things nowadays, because like I said, I've been in public works for almost 20 years, and it's just one of those things where I can build roads, but just building more roads and more lanes is not the solution to meeting our future needs for transportation in this area.
Right. Shouldn't end this conversation without pointing out the very cool picture you have behind your head, Kevin, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Like I said, my daughters gave that to me for Christmas a couple of years back. So like I said, it's one of the nice things about the pandemic and doing it digital now. I'm able to share that with the world.
I know part of me is saying, don't bring that up. And then the other voice is going, bring it up, bring it up. No, so brought it up. And we'll close here. I just wanted to share, this is more of a downtown piece of that corridor you're talking about. But this does kind of show what a portion of what you're saying is. Again, 10th Street being a very large roadway, and we're only seeing a small portion of that. But it is even at this one moment when we were capturing this quick B-roll, it often is a busy intersection. So I'll, if I'm correct, this one shows you the vehicles that are actually on that road. I think, Maryemma, that makes the point of it replacing US 192 here and there during the day, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, if there's anything anybody else would like to add, by all means, do that right now. But one word that was that kept popping in my mind, which we won't go into today because we'll end this, but that word was autonomous. And certainly, as time passes, we'll be talking more about autonomous vehicles and how that might impact incorporated cities and different regions in the counties. But we'll save that for a different conversation. So again, I want to thank all of you guys for spending some time with us this morning. You're all extraordinarily busy, and I know that sectoring out a day or a time like this is not always very easy. So Alex, we thank you. Emily as well from Bike Walk Central Florida. Alex from obviously MetroPlan Orlando. Kevin and Maryemma from City of St. Cloud. We do appreciate you and the time again. We cannot expect to have a great community in the future if we're not looking at it and strategizing now and planning and working together. I love everything you guys said today, so I really appreciate you very much from Positively Osceola. We thank you all. All right,
Kevin.
All right. Well, you guys have a great day. I hope you'll all join us again. There's so much more we can talk about. All right.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Again, this is Keith with Positively Osceola, along these amazing leaders in the community. Together, we're making a positive difference in and around Osceola County.